Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Games podcast for episode 109. Today we're talking about the biggest thing in gaming since Spotlight Games started, a game called Power World. I'm going to review The Last of Us Remastered 2. We're going to react to last week's Xbox Developer Direct, and we have a bit of a surprise for you. My sweet dumpster boy came and lost internet, so instead we are joined by one of the most handsome men I know. I don't have a nickname for him off the top of my head, but his name is Evan Brandonizio. Evan Brando, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
Happy to be here. Very, very grateful to announce that I've defeated Cayman in a trial by combat to become the new official co-host of the Spotlight Games pod.
It happened.
Very, very grateful to be here for that.
Good. I'm realizing now, because I'm doing this in a new way, the little recording tag is on the top of the screen. Oh. Don't like that. I think I'm just gonna have to live with it.
Yeah, that guy, this gentleman.
Yeah, this little top left guy.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
It'll be fine.
Yeah,
this will be something that I solve for next week. Evan, we have so many fun things to talk about, but before we do that, let's do some housekeeping. We have a lot of video game stuff to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games podcast where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod. So be sure to follow us there so that you're notified when we go live, especially a day like today when we go live a little late, so you can be part of the conversation. Evan, what a glorious day. There wasn't a moment of my day where I expected to have you on the podcast, so I'm just like excited that we're
there was no moments in my day where I was expecting to come guest on this podcast.
A little behind the scenes for our audience. We as you normally know, Cayman, the co-host, lost his internet, and so I texted Evan about 90 seconds ago and was like,
it was an insane, like, at the finish line. You were like, are you free at 8? And I was like, tonight?
And he was, as evidenced by what's happening right here today, right now. Evan, we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Power World. We're going to be talking about The Last of Us, but I want to start the show with how we always start our shows here on Spotlight Games, with what we've been playing. What have you been playing, Doggy Dog?
So this is a game that I finally dove into after like months, and it might even have encroached into years plural territory of people recommending me this game, and not recommending in a way that's like, I'm sure you've done this both ways, where like not just, oh, you should play this. This is an all-time game. This is like a great game, but in the way that's like, you should play this specifically because I know you, I know your tastes, I know the things you like in games, and like I'm recommending it specifically for you.
Oh, me, Patrick.
Well, this was to Evan.
This was to Evan.
You're Evan in this scenario.
Great.
Yeah. And that's a game called Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I've never played. I played a little bit of Yakuza 0, but by and large, I'm not that familiar with the series.
Okay.
But I just got enough recommendations for this game. And like right away, I was like, all right, I get what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah.
Because it's very goofy, as the Yakuza games kind of are, but there's a sincerity to them, I think. Like it's high drama, high stakes, things like that. A little campy. Obviously, there's like the infamous like mini games and things like that. But they never really like wink about it, really. They're never like, oh, this happens,
Yeah.
And I find that like sincerity is really what sells it. And like the main character of this game is so like, he's just like me for real, because he's like, I learned everything I know about courage and being a hero from marathoning Dragon Quest games. And it's like, hey, yeah, man, I'm here for that escape.
That hits close to home.
Sure, it does.
I'm actually pretty bummed that Cayman isn't here because it's one of his favorite games of all time, and
no kidding.
He has been on this journey to platinum Skyrim before Friday, before he can start the sequel of
the Infinite Wealth,
Infinite Wealth sequel, and he was going to give us an update on his Skyrim platinum journey. But also, so I played Like a Dragon because Cayman really wanted me to play Like a Dragon. It's won Golden Beefies here at the Spotlight Games in years past.
It's very largely decorated for sure.
And I just the beef community really big on Yakuza.
A lot of buzz around Like a Dragon.
Yeah, yeah. And I just, for whatever reason, it didn't click for me. It was my first Yakuza game. Not my first run-in with the Yakuza. I watched the final season of True Blood, everybody. But it just like didn't click for me. But I'm reading reviews for the new Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I'm hearing buzz.
Insanely high praise for them.
It's got me hyped. Like, it has this new Animal Crossing-esque feature. Or game mode rather, because it takes place in Hawaii. Not
yes, I hear they handle
Japan.
the narrative of Hawaii like very well. Of like, you know, they have a lot to say about like kind of the tourism market being out of control, kind of like the lack of housing, and like the kind of the overall fucked state of Hawaii right now.
But
cool.
yeah, so there's like a whole mode where there's like an island that you get that is straight up Animal Crossing. Like, you are building buildings, you're far like it's people are saying it's just like 3D, not 3D, like AAA Animal Crossing. So all of those kinds of things get me hyped about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which I might be playing. Also, want to say hi to Cognitive Clips in the chat, and also Bennett UA in the chat, who says, who is that lurking in the dark corner behind Evan? Don't look behind you, Evan. It's the dumpster boy.
It's the he's just, his eyes just glow.
Oh, that would be frightening if there was actually
that's my sleep paralysis demon.
Yeah.
It's the dumpster boy.
Yes. I agree. I've never had a sleep paralysis demon, but I think if I did, it would also be the dumpster boy. Cole House Jr. in the chat, LMAO. Hi guys. Hey Terry, how are you?
What up?
So yeah, here's my question to you, Evan, about Yakuza Like a Dragon. Obviously, you've not finished the game yet. You've just started playing.
I've barely scratched the surface. I'm maybe 4 hours in.
But do you think if I were to ballpark it, I would guess that I put in around 4 hours before I bailed. Do you think I should go back, or do you think I should just look forward to Infinite Wealth?
I feel like, I mean, I don't know the series that well, right? I feel like if you don't like, I feel like I would go back, particularly because it's on Game Pass. I feel like I would probably go back and give Like a Dragon another shot before you say, well, I'm going to go watch the sequel. Because it would be weird to be like, you know, I really didn't like Avatar, but I can't wait for The Way of Water.
But
actually, that's a bad example. That's a
bad example.
Because Avatar Way of Water is great, actually.
A lot better than the prequel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To the point where we're calling the original the prequel.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
But you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
I'm surprised it's clicking for me for what it's worth, because I normally do not really love turn-based RPGs. Like, there's a few. Yeah, I mean, there's a few standouts, like the Paper Mario series. I love Chrono Trigger. But by and large, it's not a genre that I gravitate towards. Turn-based combat, I think, is just not my jam.
Sure. I'm genuinely shocked by that.
I know.
I don't think back and like remember any turn-based RPGs we've talked about in earnest, but like you just strike me as a JRPG guy for some reason.
I like them in theory, but yeah, just in practice, it's sometimes really hard to like I've tried to start Persona 5 like 100 times.
Yeah.
And I really like a lot of that game. Like I get it. I do. But like, it's like the day-to-day things of like, oh God, if I go get coffee with this guy, am I going to screw my run up? You know, like,
yeah.
I think I actually, we're perfectionist.
No, I get that. It's funny that you bring up Persona 5. I finally started to transition to what I've been playing. I finally started Persona 5 Royal on my Steam Deck. It's a game that because I'm this irresponsible, I've now bought, I think, twice. In addition to base game Persona 5.
Is like Persona 5 with like New Game Plus, essentially.
New Game Plus with it, but there's a whole new semester apparently. So it's a pretty big chunk. It's like Persona 4 Gold into Persona 4. It's like the director's cut, as it were.
Might I say, I'm surprised you started that, given that Persona 3 is just around the corner.
So
loaded.
I wouldn't be doing this, and I would be saving myself for Persona 3 Reload if I hadn't played Persona 3 for the first time like 4 months ago.
No kidding. That's so funny because
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like literally on the precipice about 4 months ago of playing Persona 3, because I know a lot of people who love that game, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait. Why would I, pop this bubble.
Yeah.
When the reboot is coming out, you know.
Yeah, that was a miss on my part. I played it. It was a big whiff. I had played it right when the remaster launched, like when they did that 3-pack, where like, oh, it's everywhere now. Like you can get all of them on Switch and PlayStation and whatnot. And I played it then.
Oh, so you played it already?
So I hadn't. That was my first time playing 3, but for some reason I just didn't want to wait for the reload, the remake, and I kind of regret that now. But also, it's like there's so many other things at the moment. So like in a way, I'm actually kind of happy. So that
got it out of the way.
I got it out of the way, and then now I can go play Reload later. Because also I learned the port that they did last year of Persona 3 is the PSP version, which has
so it's already upscaled a little bit.
But it has where you can choose to play male or female main character, whereas the one that they're remaking, it's the original. It's not so it's only the male characters like that. Also, similarly, like it's a little bit, it's not quite as big of a jump from what I looked up. It's not as quite as big of a jump of 4 to Golden or 5 to Royal. But there is like a little extra dialogue, and like there's a new ending with the female character that a lot of people say is like the canon ending. So then I'm like, ultimately, I'm glad that I did it this way. But
did you play as the female character?
I did. Okay. Part of the reason I did it that way was
right, because that makes sense.
But yeah, so I've been doing Persona 5 Royal, but even I loved Persona 5 when it came out. Not as much as 4. And my big
I mean, that game oozes style. It's so cool. Like the characters are great. Like I get it.
My biggest criticism of the time when I played 5 was I really wish that it had been a handheld, because that's how I played 4. And I was like, all of this diatribe to loop in what you were saying about the time and the dialogue and stuff. It was like I found myself, especially with like the dungeons, wanting to be like, I would love to just push pause, put my thing to sleep, and walk away. But like it's just such a bigger to do when you're playing it on the TV. So finally playing it on handheld. I'm like a month in, having a great time. But I've found myself fast forwarding through a lot of the gameplay and the dialogue, to be honest, because I'm like, I know this, like I've already.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Not because it's a slog, but because
not because it's a slog. Yeah. But I also, because I've already played the original one time, I'm just doing a straight, give me every step in the guide.
I was going to say, if you're passing through it again and you're skipping all this dialogue and stuff, are you just like, oh, I just want to hang out with my Persona friends with Ryuji and stuff again, like a comfort watch almost, or
it's a bit of a comfort watch, and also I'm kind of barreling through the content that I know to get to the new stuff. A bit like half an hour.
That's right. I totally you're playing R. Right.
But I've also, Evan, been playing The Last of Us 2 Remastered, and in fact, I have a little review to share. Yeah, so Friday, if you missed it, the VOD is up now on Twitch. It's going to be on YouTube later this week. I streamed for the first time The Last of Us Part 2 No Return Mode. And for those that have missed the news, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered that just came out on Friday. It included... Yeah.
When did Last of Us 2 come out?
July 2020 or June 2020.
Does it feel soon to have a remaster?
It does. My first takeaway was I don't notice a single difference between the base game and this game.
Like it's just a port, right? Like at this point,
they're saying there's like certain graphical things that have been tweaked, and they're like, but like it looks the exact same to me.
I have a real issue with this being called a remaster.
Yeah, honestly, I really think that this should have been called Director's Cut.
That would it solves everybody's issue.
Which is weird because like they've set the precedent with what is it? The Kojima game, Death Stranding, and also Ghost of Tsushima. They released Director's Cuts for both of those games,
especially
with new
for
content.
Are these kind of like, I don't want to say art house but these kind of AAA games that are kind of in a lot of ways mimicking the movie thing, right?
Yeah.
This is the poster child for that. I think when I think of movies that are like, or games that are like trying to kind of embody movies, this is it, you know?
Right. And like,
so it feels like the conversation's already there.
It's weird too, because also part of the remaster included a thing called Lost Levels, which is awesome, by the way. Yeah. If you're a T-Lu stan like I am, which is 3 levels that were cut from the game. and they're in this game in like various states of completion.
Yeah,
with,
like the old Pixar like blooper
yeah,
reels. Yeah,
it's honestly, it's outside of no return mode, which I'm going to get to, which is going to kind of be the beef of my review.
Yeah,
the Lost Levels thing is so fucking cool. I was such a geek for it.
So
like,
into that. I'm so into that. I would be so into like a director's commentary. I would love just like, I don't know, the ins and outs of games, right? Like,
for sure.
Especially taking advantage of the ways that games are unique, right? And these are technically, in a lot of places, playable, right? Like,
for sure.
It's cool to see the documentary of like, and this is what we did, and this is how we made Mario jump. But like, show me like, you know, these levels that didn't quite pan out that you have these ideas for,
and they nail it. It's so cool. There's a little intro that you can.
What a great concept!
It's a great concept. There's a little intro leading into each of the levels from the game director Neil Druckmann. It's like, this is the idea behind the level. This is why it was cut. This is like the state that it's in. Like, this one's not going to have audio. This one, like, and they're very clear about like, this is why it was cut and this is what to expect. One of them is like the one that's the most close to have been done, looks pretty similar to how the base game looks. But then there's one that's like you can tell
it's like
it is
blocks and stuff.
Yeah, like it's awesome. Really kind of.
Do they talk about why it gets cut? Like why
they do?
Why did this? Very cool.
It's awesome.
I'm so into that.
I highly recommend. If you love the game, go do the Lost Levels. And like, if you don't want to spend the $10 to
honestly, I'm pretty medium. I never played. I love the first Last of Us. I never played the sequel. Some of the critiques I heard about it, and maybe this isn't fair to just let other people's, thoughts on the game and impart on me, but that stuff felt like, not saying it would ruin the game for everybody. In fact, probably far from it, but like my particular grievances with games and stuff, I feel like I might be graded on a little bit by it. But,
sure.
But I don't know. I haven't played it.
Yeah, I think
I might check it out because of this.
Yeah, and also, so on top of the Lost Levels, there's also director's commentary. There's like a director's commentary track over all of the cutscenes in the game, which they did in the first game too, in the remaster for the first game. But it's like in the scene, it'll be like a various voices, either like Druckmann or Hallie Gross, the writers, or the actors on camera then, and like they'll just talk about like the process and struggles that they had and like what they were thinking during things. And I love that shit. Like I eat that kind of shit up.
Me too. I think it's fascinating, and we don't get enough. Like, there is, I think, the biggest removal of like creators to I think about this because I'm a card game fan, right?
Yeah.
And in like the movie world, you have actors who do press conferences and like directors, writers, right? TV shows, you have the same. Like, there's a very particularly like through Twitter and social media, you have a lot of people who talk about their work. But video games and card games too don't really have that face to face kind of thing. And like I certainly don't think the industry does any favors by saying like, hey, here we have this big prestigious game show award. Here's Anthony Mackie telling everyone to shut up for 14 minutes or whatever, instead of like letting the people who are behind the game, the creatives behind the games, right, talk about their work.
Right.
So very often you don't get even platforms for it, I think.
For sure. Yeah. And it's big fan of what they're doing with this. And then also, so the new, whoops, I just fucked that up. Outside of the Lost Levels and commentary is this new roguelike mode, which I streamed on Friday, called No Return. And it is fucking incredible. I can't stop playing this game.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
It's a roguelike experience for that. It's just, we took the Last of Us kind of theme and mechanics and we just made it a roguelike.
Essentially. So the way it works, each run, you have to get through 6 encounters, and the encounters can vary in terms of like the faction you're going against. And then there's also 4 game modes. One of them is Assault. It's just like survive 3 waves of enemy X.
Yeah.
There's one called Hunted, which is they're going to just keep coming at you. It's like a survival mode. Yeah, exactly. There's a mode called Capture, which is there's a safe somewhere in the level being guarded. You have to get to it and open it within a certain time period. And then there's one called Holdout, which it puts you with a partner in the game, and you have to keep them alive. And so like there will be like an influx of certain enemy types, and you just have to make sure that they don't die.
Is it an online thing? Like when you say
it is not
with a partner? Okay.
Within the game, The Last of Us Part 2, think of The Last of Us 1 where it's Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
Like you have an Ellie with you.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so yeah, so you go through, and then within each encounter, it randomizes certain mods, things like the enemies move faster, or there's like heavy fog, or one of my personal favorites because it's fucking insane, it's raining Molotovs. Like there's just fucking fire coming down all the time.
Hell yeah!
So it's very arcade.
Fun, yeah.
It is, dude. It is so much fun. I have not.
This seems like a victory lap for the game, and I'm so into that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I've had that. I'm trying to think of a similar game because I think there is one that I played. I want to say maybe it's a Sonic game or something, but I can't recall, where it was just like, all right, cool. You guys had the game, and now here's like our bonus game with like,
yeah.
I don't know if it was the Sonic game. Maybe it's like, we put Super Sonic in all of these levels. Guy, who cares? Going on, you know, like something like that, right? I don't know. I don't recall exactly, but something like that, where it's just like, after you've played a couple of pickup games and you're just like throwing Hail Marys to each other or whatever, like you're just screwing around a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's illuminated two things for me. So often Last of Us Part 2 is in my top 5. I'm just a huge sucker for The Last of Us. If you watch the show, you know this.
Is that not number 1?
I like the first one more.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I thought you were. I guess I was mistaken.
As a franchise, though, yes.
Yeah.
It's my favorite franchise.
Naturally.
And something that I always say about The Last of Us, and my kind of like my takeaway with Part 2 is, I think the story is expertly done, and it's very much like a narrative. And No Return has highlighted to me just how much I love the combat of The Last of Us Part 2.
Interesting.
So the way the meta narrative, as it were, is you're just like unlocking things. So you can ultimately play as 10 different characters, like one of each faction. There's like the Ellie faction and the Abby faction, and you have certain challenges for each of these characters, and each character has a different build. So like Abby, very melee focused. She gets health on melee kills, so it very much
just cast live action. Did you guys talk about that?
Yeah,
by the way?
We did. Yeah, and then Dina, as an example, is very traps focused. So like she gets a bonus by crafting traps and using traps. So it's like each character really tries to get you to play a specific way. One of the characters, like, you can't dodge, so it's very much like a tank. And it's just, and each of those characters has certain challenges, like use X guns certain ways, or get through a run by doing this 5 times or whatever. And it's just like this kind of rinse and repeat nature of it. And there's 6 different bosses. So the way it works is like, once you get through one run, kill boss 2, you unlock boss 2, or kill boss 1, you now unlock boss 2. Once you kill boss 2, you unlock boss 3, etc. So I just finally finished the last boss before we went live here. So now it's like randomizing the bosses each time I do the run. But I'm having such a fun time with it. My one critique of this game mode, and it's the second thing that really illuminated for me, is while this has really shown me how much I love The Last of Us 2's combat, it also really highlights how much it's missing when there is simply no dialogue. It feels sterile. Like as I was mentioning, like there are times when you play like with a partner character, and like how easy would it have been to just be like, the run ends, you win the encounter, and it's like, thanks, Jesse. Like something simple like that. But like they just like don't talk.
A unique interaction, like I don't know, if you got these 10 characters and some of them are escorts, right? Like at the beginning of a fighting game or something, when they have like in Mortal Kombat, when it's like, Sub-Zero's here, and Sub-Zero's like, I'm gonna chill you, Scorpion. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's like a nice little touch that really adds a lot sometimes.
Right. And if the AI happens to match you with like someone in the other faction, maybe it's like there's like a heated tension thing.
It's like we're done after this.
Right. Really. Don't expect my help again. That shit, honestly, I think would have elevated this so much for me, because the
juice would have been way worth the squeeze.
It's so often you finish the run and it's just like, it just feels lifeless. But that's like literally my only critique of this.
I'm not shocked by that, given kind of what my understanding of the like thing itself is. That it's like, hey, we had all these assets and we can do this, so we're going to. So I'm not shocked that it lacks a little of like, you know, maybe not everyone was free or something like that.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't hire writers, and also,
right.
I don't know. I mean, does that mean you still should have? Probably, yeah. But
probably, yeah.
I'm not totally shocked that it doesn't have that level of polish.
Yeah,
I've missed aside from the gameplay.
Exactly. Yeah, I've missed some chats coming in. We got John in the chat. He says Pat loves the combat when he remembers the buttons. For those of you that tuned in on Friday, the first like 45 minutes is like, what are the buttons to this game? But I tell you what, I'm really considering streaming this again tomorrow night.
Your favorite game, your top 5 favorite game you couldn't remember the controls for?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just
I play a lot of video games.
Not judging, just noticing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I noticed myself. I kept doing this thing where I was like, I'm trying to reload, but I just like swing the bat. I'm like, fuck. But I'm gonna probably stream this again tomorrow night, and you guys will see a night and day difference between Friday stream and tomorrow stream, because I've been training, I've been hitting the gym, I've been pumping the iron, and I've now completed 8 runs of No Return. I've died probably double that, but I think I won 3 in a row earlier, so I'm like I'm feeling good. Like I'm feeling good about certain builds and things like that. There is one mode, and I'll play it on stream if it comes up tomorrow, but there's one mod rather that turns enemies invisible. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, fuck
that is not fun.
I don't see myself having a good time doing that.
Simply not fun. But yeah, so Last of Us Remastered Part 2, remastered. If you like the first game, you want to, what I've said about No Return gets you jazzed. $10, it's going to unlock on your PS5. Go play it, have a good time. If you don't want to, come watch me stream it tomorrow night, or I guess if you're not watching live, this was last night. The VOD is up. But yeah, Last of Us Remastered Part 2. I would give this a 5 out of 5 because it's still The Last of Us Part 2. Like
I was gonna say,
and it just has more shit,
more stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a must play.
Director's
according to me.
I would give it a 4.5 because Remastered is duplicitous and wrong.
I agree.
And quite frankly, evil that they would call it.
I don't knock you. I don't knock you. I don't disagree.